Ladies and gentlemen, there is something about this situation with Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White that I think we need to talk about. Because at this point, I'm not questioning Caitlin Clark's right to support her head coach. I have never sat on an idea, a thought for so long. I took all night to process this because I didn't want to operate and record myself from a vulnerable position last night. I wanted to sleep on this thought, and I wanted to sleep on what Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham said last night. And I definitely prepared a multiple notes, definitely edited. Like it's a lot that went into this video, not from a productivity standpoint, but just from an emotional standpoint, from a logical standpoint, like trying to figure out what's the next action, what's the next step, does this make sense, does this not make sense? And this is what I prepared, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get into everything today. Caitlin Clark, at the end of the day, I understand with Stephanie White, she's her coach, she's her teammate in a sense, and she's trying to win basketball games together with Stephanie White. But Caitlin doesn't owe the fans a public criticism of Stephanie White. I understand that as well. I'm not asking Caitlin Clark to throw Stephanie White under the bus as well. Let's make that very clear. What I am asking, at what point are fans allowed to acknowledge what we've actually seen? At what point do we get to say, hey, this happened, and I'm calling this person out because this happened, and this is a fact that this happened. This is not speculation. This is not AI. This happened. When will someone address this? And as fans, we're just told to basically shut up. Like, no, we love each other. We love each other. It's now becoming a pattern. The last time Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White were seen embracing, like the way we saw them embrace each other last game, was after that viral confrontation between the two of them at the end of that Portland Fire game. Well, in the middle of that Portland Fire game, right? A confrontation that was significant enough for that both Caitlin and Stephanie had to address it afterward. I ride for her, I ride with her, right? And now, after Stephanie White gets booed by her own fans, the Fever fans booed her last night. After she gave a very emotional speech last night, I'm done. I lead with love. I lead with love. Go to hell. Just being emotional, right? We suddenly saw Caitlin Clark embracing Stephanie White pregame, which we'll also show in this video as well, right? So look, I had to say, Caitlin is allowed to feel that way. If she wants to feel that way, by all means. But here's where I have a problem. You cannot tell fans essentially don't believe what you're seeing when there's already a mountain of evidence, especially you guys know how much evidence that I have saved up, that Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White have never been on the same page from a philosophical level. It always boils back down that we don't see the game from the same point of view, which is why we continuously clash. When Caitlin was out last year, that's when we saw them bonding, because Stephanie White wasn't in Caitlin's way and Caitlin wasn't in Stephanie's way. They both were just, Caitlin can't be in a way. She's not playing. So Stephanie can have free will to do what she wants. We've seen the arguments. We've seen the disagreements. We've seen the sideline tension. We've seen moments where Caitlin clearly wasn't happy with the decisions being made. We're not making this up. We've seen situations where fans have questioned whether Caitlin Clark is actually being utilized the way she should be offensively. We know this. We know she's not even being utilized defensively properly, right? And now we're being told essentially that everything is fine and that everybody should just trust Stephanie White because Caitlin says she loves her and has her back. That's why I think some fans are going to feel dismissed, if I'm being honest, Caitlin. And I want to make something very clear. I'm not saying Caitlin Clark has to criticize her coach. I'm not saying Caitlin has to come out and say Stephanie White is a terrible coach. What I am saying is that she's an employee. She has a locker room to protect. Yes, I understand it. She has a season to finish, right? She has teammates and relationships that she want to maintain. Cool. I understand that, especially knowing the league already, right? Nobody wants to play for Indy. I know she wants to protect that narrative as well, right? But there's a difference between respecting Caitlin's position and pretending the evidence doesn't exist, because fans are not asking Caitlin Clark to publicly turn against Stephanie White. They're asking why the public narratives keep becoming everything is great, everything is united, everybody has each other's back, when we've repeatedly seen evidence that there have been legitimate disagreements behind the scenes and on the sideline. I have multiple and mountains of evidence of everything I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why this hug that we're going to bring up is interesting to me, because it seems like every time Stephanie White finds herself in the middle of controversy, suddenly Caitlin is right there publicly embracing her, defending her, and reassuring everybody that everything is okay and that they ride for each other and they love her, and they turn around and then they go right back to beefing with each other. Maybe Caitlin genuinely feels that way, right? Maybe she really does love Stephanie White. Maybe the relationship is perfectly fine off the court. But if that's the case, then fine. Just don't expect fans to ignore everything that they have already watched happen, because supporting your coach and being completely honest about your relationship with your coach are not mutually exclusive. It's two different things, okay? And that's what I want to get into today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear what Caitlin Clark had to say. I apologize for that short rant, but these are just my genuine feelings and my thoughts about this situation.
I can assure you there was no way we were losing this game tonight. And I told her that before the game. Like, there was no way we were losing this game for her. And, you know, it's tough. Like, that's my head coach. Like, I hated that our fans booed her before the game. That made me a little sick, to be honest. And you can disagree and this and that, and I get it. It's professional sports. People are going to boo. But, like, at the end of the day, that's our head coach. And we're going to ride for her. And we're always going to have our back. And that's never going to tear our locker room apart. So I just love her and I feel for her because I know it can be a lot at times, and she does a great job a lot of times blocking it out, but there's other moments where it can get under your skin, and that's just being human, and that's just life. Like, there are tough days and there are tough moments, but just proud of our group. Like, I think we showed like what we're all about tonight. Like, we came out, we had fun, we shared the ball, and, you know, we played with joy and a smile on our face, and to be honest, we really just did it for her, and we did it for each other and the girls in our locker room.
Okay, so this is my question, ladies and gentlemen, because in the moment of love, in the moment of expressing your feelings, I don't think they understand how flawed what Caitlin Clark is saying actually shows with the locker room. They're showing the flaws in the locker room by saying this. Ask me what I mean. To say that we came out here and we dominated the New York Liberty, we did this for Stephanie, I want to ask a very important question. As professional athletes, shouldn't you already be doing it for yourselves and your teams? Shouldn't you be doing it for the opportunity to win a basketball game? Shouldn't you be doing it, most importantly, for the fans who are paying their hard-earned money and filling out the arena night in and night out? Right? Shouldn't we be doing this for the fans? So this is my main problem with everything that they're saying, is that they're doing it for Stephanie White. And you clearly saw Kelsey Mitchell playing with an extra burst of energy, something I didn't even know she had in her. And now I want to hold her to that standard, right? Because they're doing things for Stephanie White. What about the fans? Stephanie White, I feel like she genuinely, her mission succeeded. She divided and conquered his locker room. I heard the Stockholm Syndrome with Caitlin Clark. It definitely looks like it's a real thing when you look at Caitlin Clark defending someone who's literally on record going at you, who's literally on camera going at you, who's literally orchestrating attacks allegedly behind your back to smear your name on national television. We're supposed to ignore all of these things. Oh, don't make me bring up the contract situation, Caitlin. They can't afford you should you win an MVP, which is exactly why they don't give you the keys, Kate. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on real quick, because it's not just me who feel this way. Obviously, you can see Caitlin Clark hugging Stephanie White before the game, a very long hug. A very, very long hug. In the 2 years that Stephanie White has been Caitlin's coach, you have never seen them hug like this. Is that a coincidence? How is it that now Stephanie White facing all this adversity, Caitlin Clark suddenly has emotions for Stephanie White? I'm telling you guys right now, this is damage control, which is why I can see straight through this nonsense. This is not like, it's like they're playing with the fans right in front of our face. And I know I'm gonna have people in my comments. I know I might lose some subscribers because a lot of people just want to live in la la land, fairy tale land. They don't want to look at the hard truth in the eye. But the real ones know this is not a genuine hug. This is not a genuine vibe at all whatsoever. They can say what they want, they can do what they want, but the actions will always show more than the words can ever tell you. Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark cannot stand each other when it comes to the sport of basketball. Once again, after Caitlin Clark, you guys remember when Caitlin Clark was benched for Raven Johnson, right? By the coach that Caitlin Clark said rise for her, by the way. Just to refresh you guys' memory. You can see Caitlin Clark getting yelled at by Stephanie White right here, scolded by her. Caitlin responds, saying, I'm putting my hands up, and they're calling fouls on me. And Stephanie White, being emotional, says, all right, get up, Raven. You go sub her in, because she don't want to listen. And Caitlin Clark, the coach that says, oh, I ride for her, she rides for me, she has my back. She just told you to get up for a top 10 pick player, a player who just got in. She benched you out of emotion. Someone who rides for you during adversity, you guys can find common ground. Not with Stephanie White. It's her way or the highway. But Caitlin, we are expected to ignore these kind of things, right? I don't think so. And after that happened, 2 straight weeks of Caitlin Clark being smeared on national television. The next game was against the Atlanta Dream. This is what Caitlin Clark did after a dead ball. Her and Stephanie White embracing each other. Stephanie White chest bumps Caitlin Clark. Stephanie White hugs her, as you can see. And they was clearly in the moment, locked in with each other. Once again, the only time you can see these two in love like this, you know what I'm saying? At least, you know, professionally, like loving each other. You can definitely see like, oh, this is damage control. Oh, this is for the cameras. Because where is this same emotion on a random Tuesday? Why is it that you guys only love each other when it's adversity coming? Why on camera? Like fans are just, this is what I'm saying. Is like they think it's just casual views. No, we literally like this is my job. I have to cover this, and I'll cover this Dave Portnoy segment in another video on this channel. But as you can see, Stephanie White watching Caitlin Clark always get fouled. Watch Sophie Cunningham always get fouled. But when you ask Stephanie White about it, she'll say she never seen it. You ask Stephanie White about it, she'll say she never sees these kind of things. She's not going to bat for her players, etc., etc. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's very easy to ignore and be gullible to what they're saying. I think not. I think I'll lean towards the latter. And let's continue. Because one thing I know is you wouldn't be avoiding a coach like this out of the huddle last year if you guys truly roll for each other. You know what's the saddest part about all of this? Look at Caitlin Clark arguing, saying she don't want to be a part of the huddle. She's talking like she clearly never seen, and who's locked in, you can clearly see this is for Kelsey Mitchell. I could be mistaken, but it look like Kelsey Mitchell might even be having a smirk on her face. She's enjoying every bit of this. You know what I'm saying? Sydney Colson's listening, this snake right here. Caitlin Clark is not a part of the huddle, while Stephanie White is in the huddle talking. Brianne January, Austin Kelly talking to Caitlin. I mean, listen, Caitlin, we're not making this up. I promise you, my girl. We're actually doing this to protect you, whether you know it or not, whether you think you need it or not. You was injured last year because of this very thing. Them leaving you on an island, putting you in offensive positions that can harm you, leaving you on the islands defensively, which will harm you, stressing your body when you have a heavy load on the offensive end. Now you're joining the huddle with an attitude. Now you're out of it mentally. You've argued with Stephanie White. I have personal unreleased footage of you crashing out on Stephanie White in the huddle. Right? Like, this is not us just making up fan fiction. And I'm telling you guys, it's nothing wrong with holding your favorite player accountable. Caitlin is human just like the rest of us. She's not a deity. She's not a god. You can hold her accountable the same way. In fact, this is actually a way you can wake up Caitlin Clark to be like, damn, there's a chance that I can lose my fans. Because you can't let it's the same thing with the Indiana Fever organization. When you have a coach up here, I mean, look at Caitlin Clark's stat line in this game. Caitlin dropped 32 points, 9 assists, 7 3-pointers made, 8 rebounds, nearly flirting with a triple-double. And this coach comes up here and spews this nonsense and tries to basically downplay this crazy accomplishment by saying, oh, she just carried us in the first half.
Hot early and knocked down a lot of shots. She carried us in the first half. And then everybody else carried us in the second half. I thought her decision.
Like, one more time.
So she got hot early and knocked down a lot of shots. She carried us in the first half. And then everybody else carried us in the second half. I thought her decision making outside the last part of the fourth quarter especially was really good. She had some turnovers.
She carried us in the first half. The rest of the team carried us in the second half. But then I remember one game where Kelsey Mitchell had a measly 19 points, and they asked about Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston dropping 30-point double-doubles for the first time in WNBA history. And she said, yeah, but don't forget about Kelsey Mitchell. She had a quiet 19, am I right?
And we talked about it a little bit, and I thought her decision-making was great, outstanding, especially that last 4-minute stretch or whatever it was that she was on the floor. Did a really good job of getting everybody involved, and that's what she does. I mean, that's what she does.
Embarrassing. Anyways, Caitlin Clark was out last year, if you guys remember. Caitlin was out with a left ankle, a bone bruise in her ankle. Remember, she was out last year. Keep that in mind. She was out last year. Keep that in mind. They kept her out last year. Don't look like a coach that rides for you. In fact, it looks like the opposite. It looks like they kept you out to make a playoff push, etc., try to win without you. And then that ended up in a contract that gave contract problems to the Indiana Fever because they allowed Aaliyah Boston to make all WNBA second team instead of tanking. If they tanked, they would have had a better pick. They would have had more salary cap flexibility to sign better players. But no, now you're stuck with Lexi Hall on $800,000 contract. Monique Billings on $800,000 contract. Aaliyah Boston on a max this year, on a super max for the next 3 years. Now you're trying to figure out how to sign Kelsey Mitchell back, your priority. You're trying to figure out how to bring Sophie Cunningham back. You're trying to figure out how to bring Hines Allen back maybe, right? You're trying to figure out how to bring Caitlin Clark herself back, right? With the Epic deal. So now you're trying to encourage her not to sign the Epic contract. And from what I heard, Caitlin Clark said, no, F you. I'm going to sign this Epic contract, which means I will have freedom in my free agency on the 3rd year. ladies and gentlemen, you got to start holding Caitlin Clark accountable as well. She's not perfect. She's not a deity. She's not a god. She's definitely making a mistake. Back in Stephanie White, you're backing the wrong horse, in my opinion. And listen, y'all can hold me to that same standard. If y'all don't agree with what I say, go ahead and disagree with me. At the end of the day, I can lay down on my pillow knowing I'm giving my fans the God honest truth in my heart. I spend every day on here arguing for Caitlin Clark. I break down the film every freaking time it's a game that goes on. Every single time somebody does something to her, who's over here breaking down the film, chopping everything up, connecting the dots, putting hours into this. So if anybody has a right to feel this way, it's me. If anybody has a right to feel this way about Caitlin Clark basically saying, oh yeah, we ride for each other, I'm not stupid. I'm sorry, Caitlin, I'm not stupid. And a lot of fans see the BS for what it is. Now, yes, you can be an employee. Keep things neutral. Do things on your own. You do not have to defend Stephanie White. Because if you defend Stephanie White, you're going to lose fans by the day. And that is the God honest, hard, blunt truth that I have to come up here and tell you right now. Stop the BS. This girl does not have your best interest at heart. We barely see her celebrate when you score. And she did celebrate every single time you scored last game because you defended her. Caitlin, wake up. Please wake up. I'm out of here, man.